literally immediately after the election, it was already clear that this was a problem. Before even mid-January, we were having meetings in Number 10 saying, it's clear that Carrie wants rid of all of us. At that point, we were already saying that by the summer, either we'll all have gone from here, or we'll be in the process of trying to get rid of him and get someone else in as Prime Minister.
But you've just said that within months of the Prime Minister winning the biggest Conservative majority in decades, you and a few others from the Vote Leave campaign were discussing the possibility of getting rid of him.
Days, not months.
Within days of the election, you were discussing getting rid of him?
Yes. Well, for all the reasons we've been discussing. He doesn't have a plan, he doesn't know how to be Prime Minister, and we'd only got him in there because we had to solve a certain problem, not because we thought that he was the right person to be running the country.
Well, what kind of con had you just pulled off on the British public then, if that's really what you think?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's a con. We're trying to solve very hard problems in the order that we can solve them in.
There's nothing wrong with running an election campaign, presenting one thing to the public, saying he's the guy for the job, and then days after the result comes through, you then, unelected officials inside government, discussing getting rid of him. That's okay?
Well, I'd say that's politics.
There was enormous public rage, but you decided not to tell the truth. You didn't have to give a press conference in the Downing Street Rose Garden tell the story.
Correct. No, that was not at all the original plan, of course. The original plan was, when I discussed it with the Prime Minister on the Saturday and the Sunday, was, given he knew what had actually happened, he agreed we should just say nothing about it. The media will say whatever the media's going to say. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories buzzing around. We'll just ignore it. What then happened on the Monday is that he suddenly changed his mind and said, we can't stick with the original plan. You're going to have to explain it to people. I said, I'm not going into all of this security stuff. And the whole thing just became just a huge mess.
But so together you agreed that it was better for you to tell a story that wasn't true than to stay silent.
Everything that I said in the Rose Garden was true.
But it was not the whole truth, it's not near it.
But I did not, everything I said was true, but I didn't go into all of the security concerns in the background, no.
It was a very different story, Mr Cummings. It was a very different story. You and Boris Johnson decided it was better to give the public, many of whom were absolutely furious with what you had done, you decided together it was better to give the public a story that was not the 100% truth than to keep silent or even for you to resign.
What I should have done is either just resigned and said nothing about anything, or I should have spoken to my family and said, listen, we're just going to have to come clean about the whole thing and explain it. His attitude at that point was a weird mix of partly it's all nonsense and lockdowns don't work anyway, and partly, well, this is terrible, but the people who are dying are essentially all over 80, and we can't kill the economy just because of people dying over 80.
It's a very serious claim to make. What evidence do you have of that?
Well, lots of people heard the Prime Minister say that. The Prime Minister texted that to me and other people. When the inquiry happens and everyone has to give evidence under oath, like other things that I've said to you today, this is not just me saying this. Many, many people will say under oath to the public inquiry, if and when that ever happens, that what I've said today, what I told MPs is true.
Do you think Boris Johnson was therefore putting politics ahead of people's lives?
Certainly he did. He put his own political interests ahead of people's lives, for sure.
That's a very serious accusation to make.
Yes, but lots of people were in the room and saw the same as what I saw. That's why I've argued so strongly for why I think that MPs should take matters into their own hands and insist on an inquiry into all of this now. On the evening of Wednesday the 18th, he was... The normal thing on a Wednesday evening is to go and see the Queen. And therefore he was going to go and see the Queen.
But what happened then? Because obviously the health advice was already, especially for the very elderly, you know, people should take every precaution, you shouldn't be doing things that you're not meant to be doing, you should be trying to reduce all your contacts. So what happened?
He said, well, that's what I do every Wednesday, sod this, I'm going to go and see her. So I said to him, there's people in this office who are isolating. You might have coronavirus, I might have coronavirus. You can't go and see the Queen. What if you go and see her and then give the Queen coronavirus? Like, obviously you can't go.
So the possibility went through your head at that moment that the Prime Minister might pass coronavirus to the Queen?
Yes.
How did you persuade him not to do it?
I just said, if you go and you give her coronavirus and she dies, what are you going to... You can't do that. You can't risk that. That's completely insane. And he said, he basically just hadn't thought it through.
Downing Street says that didn't happen. What do you say to that?
Well, they've officially said that didn't happen. Well, I know it happened and other people who were there know it happened. Questions like, is Brexit a good idea? No one on earth knows if that's what the answer to that is.
But you've just said today, even you are still not sure if Brexit was a good idea.
I think anyone who says they're sure about questions like that has got a screw loose, whether you're on the Remain side or our side. I think one of the reasons why we won is precisely because in Vote Leave we didn't think that we're definitely right and Remainers are all idiots or traitors or anything else. We never thought like that then and still don't, and I don't now. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say that Brexit was a mistake and that history will prove that. Of course, it's reasonable for some people to think that. I honestly don't know what sort of person you'd be if you didn't have a view like that.
Do you think that you've been a force for good, or do you think you've done damage to the country? I mean, during the time where you had prominence and influence, the country became very divided. The reputation of the UK has been questioned by our neighbours, and our politics became more brutal.
I think that Brexit was a good thing. I think that the way in which the world has worked out since 2016 vindicates the arguments that Vote Leave made in all sorts of ways. I think it's good that Brexit happened.